when it comes down to it, the majority of people don't actually want to do what it takes in order to become successful. This is pretty apparent if you check out the comment sections on any of my social media posts. Most people want to live their best lives and then complain when they aren't able to build wealth. Success requires sacrifice. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. That's an expression that has been used forever, but for some reason we tend to ignore what it means. It quite literally means you cannot retain possession of your cake and also eat it. It's either or. And oftentimes life in general is like that. We face trade-offs all the time. However, culture today tells you that you can have everything. And not only that, you deserve everything. That is completely and utterly false. In order to be successful, we need to focus on the right things. So in today's video, I want to give you the 4 most common things that keep people poor. The first and most common way is the idea of keeping up with others. This is commonly referred to as keeping up with the Joneses. In the 1940s and 50s, more and more people started buying televisions. So if your neighbor bought a TV for the living room, you bought one for the living room and another one for the kitchen. If your neighbor bought a new station wagon, you bought a new station wagon, but with a higher trim. Not only is this prevalent today, I would argue it's worse now more than ever. With social media connecting us instantly to the rest of the world, we're constantly comparing our situations to everyone else's. It's a dangerous thing comparing ourselves to others in today's world because no longer are we comparing ourselves to our neighbor who makes the same amount of money, has the same bills, same number of kids. Now we're comparing ourselves to everyone on social media. So-and-so is on vacation. This person just bought a new handbag. That person is going out on a Friday night again. This is why we have 20-somethings making minimum wage, wearing Gucci, and walking around with $1,500 handbags. In another video, I'm going to talk about appearances and why they actually do matter, but there's a huge difference in caring how other people perceive you and caring about the image you portray. Oftentimes when we are focused on trying to keep up with others, it's because we care so much about how other people perceive us. So much so that sometimes people do things with the sole intention of showing everyone else what they did. Don't believe me? Look at social media. How many people post pictures of all of their purchases? It's not enough just to keep up with everyone by buying those shoes. We have to let everyone else know that we bought them. The sad thing is, the people we don't really care about perceive us in the way that we'd like, but the image we're portraying is not how we want the people we truly care about to see us. So trying to keep up with others hurts us more than just financially. The second thing that keeps people poor is prioritizing liabilities over assets. An asset is anything with the potential to appreciate in value and or generate income. A liability is the opposite. It's going to depreciate and it's not going to produce any income. A good example of an asset is a house. Even if it's your primary residence, meaning you're not renting it out, over time it's still going to appreciate in value. So eventually your $400,000 house is going to be $800,000. Then you can either sell it and get into a bigger and better house, or you can cash out, refinance, and buy another asset. The opportunities are endless. However, I talk to a lot of young people and the recurring mentality is that assets aren't really that important. A lot of young people don't even want to be homeowners, and the ones that do think it's impossible for them to do so. Buying assets are absolutely possible, but it requires sacrifice. I have a viral video on Instagram and TikTok talking about saving $300 a month from the time you're 20 till you're 25, and that would give you $18,000. That would be enough for a down payment with an FHA loan on a $400,000 house. It's really not not that complicated. But if you look at the comment sections, you'll quickly realize that young people are not willing to make sacrifices. Yeah, I'd like to be able to buy a house, but right now, Starbucks, going out with friends, drinking, designer brands, going out to eat, all of those things are more important to me. If you prioritize liabilities, you will never be able to afford assets. However, if you prioritize assets, at some point you will be able to afford those liabilities. Prioritizing assets puts you in a position to live the kind of lifestyle you want to live later in life, but most young people don't want to think about their future. Don't make that mistake. Your future self will thank you. The third thing that keeps people poor is severely going into debt for school. Now, before I get into it, I am not opposed to taking out student loans in order to go to school. That's what I personally had to do. So I think there are many instances in which it's okay. However, I think we're seeing more and more cases in which the better thing to do would be to not take out those loans. So let me explain. For at least the last decade, we've been told by culture that all we need is an education. If we can get an education, really, that's all we need in order to be successful, make lots of money. However, as many 20-somethings and 30-somethings have found out, that's really not the case. I want to be very clear. Education does not guarantee success. I don't care if it's a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a PhD. That degree does not guarantee your success. In fact, as more and more people have pursued higher education, the competition in the workforce has increased, which actually decreases your chances of success. But that aside, I want to focus on the aspect that education is needed at all costs. I don't think that's the case. In fact, not all education is equal. I often find that people think about it backwards. People typically go, here's what I want to study, here's how much it'll cost me, and then here's how much I want to make once I graduate. Well, I have news for you. The workforce does not care how much you want to make when you graduate. Oftentimes, the amount of money you make is determined by the value you add to society. So don't think about it like that. Think about it backwards. Start with, here's my desired career field. Here's the average amount of income made as a graduate. And then work backwards and say, okay, so here's how much I can afford based on that income to pay for school. Many people graduate with 6 figures worth of debt only to make 60 grand a year. On the flip side, if you're expecting to make 60 grand a year, then you'd know it would be a good idea to keep the debt under $30,000. That way you could pretty easily pay it off within 5 to 10 years. I know many people in their late 30s and 40s still paying off student loans because they didn't think about it like this. So don't make that mistake. The fourth thing that keeps people poor is a wasteful mentality. I've found that most people think, once I come into money, then all of a sudden I'll magically know how to manage it. But that's not how it works. If you don't know how to properly manage a small amount of money, you will not know how to maintain a large amount of money. Now, by having a wasteful mentality, I'm not just talking about wasting money. Now, that's a major aspect of it. Don't let groceries go to waste. Don't spend money on things you're not going to use, all of that. But another aspect of having a wasteful mentality is not understanding the value of money. If you begin to realize that $1 is no less valuable than $100, which is no less valuable than $1,000, which is no less valuable than $10,000, I promise you, you will start to build wealth. If you can blow $100 without even thinking about it, making 30 grand a year, I promise you, you'll blow $1,000 without even thinking about it once you get to 100 grand a year. But if you learn to value money, I promise you, it'll prepare you to handle greater amounts in the future. Don't let culture keep you poor. Go against the grain and focus on the things that are going to bring you success. As always, please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.